Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the unseen forces that are totally reshaping our workplaces and, our relationship with work itself.
So let's just jump right in. Have you ever felt like your job is just different lately? I mean, in the expectations, the culture, maybe even the work you're doing? Well, you're not imagining it. There are these huge, massive forces at play. And what's wild is they all point back to one often overlooked department that's suddenly front and center.
Yep, you guessed it. We're talking about human resources. Now, for decades, HR was kind of the place you went for payroll questions or to file some paperwork, right? Well, those days are over. It's going through this absolutely radical transformation, shifting from a back-office job to, believe it or not, the strategic nerve center of the modern company.
And this right here, this is the pivot. On the one hand, you had old HR, all about the 3 Ps: payroll, policies, and paperwork. Compliance, administration, keeping the machine running. But the new model? Wow! It's about shaping actual business outcomes. We're talking strategy, culture, and analytics. Instead of just managing rules, today's HR leaders are actually designing the company culture. They're digging into data to predict trends, and they're sitting at the big table where all the strategic decisions get made.
And hey, the proof is right there in the job market. This isn't just a theory. LinkedIn's own data shows that 3 of the top 5 fastest-growing management jobs are in HR. And we're not talking about the old-school generalist roles. No, we're talking about these super specialized strategic positions like HR Analytics Manager or Diversity and Inclusion Manager. The demand is just surging, and it's because companies finally get it. Their people are their single biggest competitive advantage.
Okay, so how did we get here? This whole evolution of HR, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's a direct response to something even bigger, a fundamental change in who we are as a workforce. The talent pool itself is being completely remade.
So if we try to picture the worker of, say, 2030, who is that person? Well, the data paints a really clear picture. There are 2 major demographic waves crashing together right now, and they're creating a workplace that's way more complex, more dynamic, and honestly, a lot more interesting than ever before. So these charts basically highlight 2 massive shifts happening at the exact same time. On one hand, the workforce is aging. You got more people working longer. And on the other, it's becoming so much more diverse. I mean, think about it. All of a sudden, you could be managing a team with a 22-year-old just out of college and a 68-year-old senior advisor. That requires a totally new playbook.
Yeah, just let that number sink in for a second. 24.6%. By 2031, that's nearly a quarter of the entire U.S. workforce that will be 55 or older. This isn't some small shift, it is absolutely seismic. It brings up all these new challenges around things like retirement planning, healthcare, and, how do you transfer all that knowledge from one generation to the next?
And get this, at the exact same time, the workforce is becoming way less white. Now, this chart shows the Hispanic share as part of other, but listen to this. The Hispanic labor force is actually the fastest growing segment, and it's projected to make up over 21% of the total by 2031. This diversity is, of course, a huge source of strength and innovation, but it means companies have to be really intentional about creating strategies for equity and inclusion.
So, okay, we've got a changing workforce, right? Well, that means the nature of the work itself has to change too. The whole economy has been shifting away from manufacturing and manual labor and moving towards jobs built on knowledge and service.
And this is where we see the rise of what we call the knowledge worker. For these employees, their value isn't physical. It's not about how much they can lift or how fast they can assemble something. No, their value is what's in their head. Their expertise, their creativity, their ability to solve really complex problems.
And here's the proof in black and white. Just look at the fastest-growing jobs out there. You see things like nurse practitioners, wind turbine technicians, data scientists. I mean, come on. These are not jobs you can just learn in an afternoon on the fly. They demand deep, specialized knowledge, and crucially, a commitment to constantly learning just to stay relevant.
Right. And you can't manage someone like that with an old-school, top-down, do-what-I-say kind of style. It just flat out doesn't work. So what are the most successful companies doing? They're empowering their employees, giving them the autonomy and the authority to make their own decisions. They're building work around these agile, collaborative teams instead of those old, rigid hierarchies.
And of course, we have to talk about the engine driving so much of this change, technology. It is completely rewiring how work gets done, and HR is sitting right at the epicenter of this whole tech revolution.
You know, back in the day, HR was just buried under all these administrative tasks. But today, technology handles so much of that grind. You have AI that can analyze candidates to find the best fit, software that can ensure pay is fair across the whole organization, and these really smart training platforms that can actually guide an employee on their career path. What that does is it frees up HR folks to focus on what really matters, the people, not the paper.
And this is a total game changer. HR has literally become a data science field. Using something called people analytics, companies can now crunch huge data sets to really understand what drives performance, or why people are leaving, or even how to build better, more effective teams. It means decisions are no longer based on just gut feelings. They're based on hard data.
Okay, so let's get to the final piece of this puzzle. Because when you combine a new workforce, a new kind of work, and all this new technology, what do you get? You get a completely new relationship between employers and employees. The old deal, the old rules, they're just gone.
For the longest time, we all operated under this kind of unwritten agreement, something experts called the psychological contract. You know, it was that unspoken deal, the set of expectations about what you gave the company and what you got back in return. Well, in today's world, that contract is being completely torn up and rewritten from scratch.
The old deal was pretty simple, right? It was basically loyalty for job security. You show up, you work hard, you stay loyal, and the company gives you a stable job for life. Yeah, that deal is dead. The new contract is much more transactional. Employees are expected to come in and deliver high performance, bring real results. And in exchange, they demand flexibility. They want meaningful work, and they need opportunities to constantly learn and grow their skills.
And if you want one number that just perfectly captures this massive shift, here it is, 47.8 million. That's how many American workers voluntarily quit their jobs in 2021 alone during what we all called the Great Resignation. And here's the key. They weren't just leaving for a bigger paycheck. They were leaving to find jobs that actually honored this new psychological contract, jobs that offered better growth, more flexibility, and a real sense of purpose.
So this idea of flexibility has become the new mantra for everyone. For companies, it means being able to use flexible staffing to adapt to whatever the market throws at them. And for employees, it means demanding work schedules that let them actually integrate their job and their life in a way that makes sense for them.
So, what does this all lead to? It's this one big realization. The whole idea of climbing some predefined career ladder, it's gone. It's an artifact of the past. In this new world of work, there is no set path anymore. Your career isn't a ladder, it's more like a project that you, yourself, have to design and build. So the final question we're left with isn't, what's my next step up? It's, what are you going to build?